No, and that's completely my personal point of view. But I honestly think diversity and the whole focus on diversity didn't do much for the cause of women. I think if anything, it was beginning to hurt the cause of women. We were almost being treated as someone who deserves that seat because of our gender and not because of our capabilities. And I've always fought against that. I've always stood against that. I think having a more inclusive charter to say that talent will thrive.
Yeah.
And if you have the talent, you have the capabilities, then we are not going to look at anything else. It's the best thing that can happen for women. Because what I'm convinced about is given the opportunity to the right quality education, women will thrive. Women have the mindset, they have the hunger, and the hunger is just growing. The next generations don't even need support. They are hungry, they want to make a point.
Yeah.
The hunger is growing. So I think we have to figure out how to move the blinkers, how to move those filters, that legacy, you know, the baggage of legacy that we carry, that mindset of judging someone based on, are you, especially at a leadership level. The reason why we don't have a lot of leaders in leadership positions is because the CEOs are all men, or mostly men, with a few exceptions that we have. And when they hire, they want to hire people who are just like them.
Exactly.
So immediately gender filter comes up. So these are real problems that need to be looked at. But I have never been a big fan of the whole diversity agenda. I've been a much bigger fan of inclusion.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you point that out. And I think that once you start to create a culture of inclusion, and that it includes much more than just gender, it truly talks about diversity in the workforce, you can achieve many of the outcomes that we are discussing. But I want to talk about where India finds...
Just one thing I want to add to that, it should be merit-based inclusion.
Yes, of course, of course. I want to now talk about where India finds itself, and I want to get the women's perspective and the leaders' perspective on this. It's a tumultuous world. It's a volatile world where every minute there's a tweet or there's a comment that is shaking global markets. It's changing business confidence and investor sentiment. Within this milieu, you know, the opportunities that you believe India enjoys, the advantages that India should leverage on. Sangita, I want to start by talking to you about that. What do you believe India can do? What do you believe India should do? How should we position ourselves in this global environment?
So I think as an opening, I would say we need to continue on some of the good things we've been doing. On the women agenda, just the phrasing of the terminology of women-led development versus just women development itself was a game changer because it showcased the ideology that women can lead society. But going on to a broader canvas, I think like you rightly said, all of us are seeing from stock market to tariffs to a changing impact of AI, the world changing. It's very critical for us to really start thinking about what is the world we want to shape in the next 3 to 5 years. India's been playing a catch-up game. We need highways like this, we need technology like China, we need manufacturing like here, we need jobs like this. It's a beautiful time to just say, what is the new world going to look like? What are we uniquely positioned to be, to become, to shape? And that positioning is where we need to collectively go. So there's clearly self-reliance, there's clearly quality of life, there's clearly agriculture, environment and all these. But what is the future of manufacturing? What is the IP and the research? One of my biggest, worry points is that we're not investing enough in research, and that are we grounding our intellectual capital in what the world is going to look like in 3 to 5 years? So for me, that's a big one of don't play catch up anymore. Highlight the big ones. And then I must talk about healthcare because very often we don't celebrate enough what we have.
The big wins on the healthcare front.
Big wins. The fact that, we were a health-seeking nation with people going abroad. People are coming from other countries, receiving care at 1/10 of global prices. 140 countries come to India. Are we celebrating it? Are we growing it? Are we talking about it? No, we're highlighting the fact that this costs more and, this thing. The way for every Indian to get affordable healthcare is the powerful insurance which is rolling out, is to enhance manufacturing. We have pharma on one side, which is the pharmacy of the world. Next, we need to do medical device manufacturing, bring down the cost of medical devices, grow the number of doctors. We're on a path. So let's celebrate this and use this global capability that we have, enhance it and make it a revenue earner so that then we can play Robin Hood to the many who need care, which we do. We're doing already.
No, you're absolutely right. And very often this is an area that is underappreciated. It's a job creator, it's a revenue earner, and it is clearly an area, a position of strength for India, which we must leverage. The numbers are doing the talking as you speak. But Sangita, I want to, Debjani, come to you with what Sangita just said there. We need to stop playing catch up. And it comes back to this, again, this angst over R&D investment. The private sector says, we don't have the capital to do R&D investment. The government says, we're giving you the tax breaks, we've given you everything. Now you better pick up the pieces and start doing R&D investments. You've got the Commerce Minister saying that, look, stop doing food delivery and so on and so forth. Start focusing on innovation and deep tech and so on. I mean, what are we really talking about, Debjani, and how do we bridge this R&D investment conundrum?
So let's move away from the current noise. There's a lot of noise
in
all different waters, right? Because this is a way bigger problem. So let's move away from the current noise. Now, in my current role in NITI Aayog, my fun job, is to figure out the future. Not predict, but actually create the future, work towards a goal and then make sure it happens, right? And when we think about India's future, and I have a 10-year horizon that I look at, when I look at India at 2035, there are few things that are going to be super disruptive, not just for India, but for the whole world. One, the entire tech game is changing. It's no more about what's going to happen in AI, what's going to happen in quantum, blah, blah, blah. We are entering the era of great convergence. This is where technologies are now coming together with science. So the biggest impact we are going to see is AI plus biology, AI plus physics, AI plus maths. What this convergence is doing, not going to do, but is doing, is it's completely changing the rules of the game. So we are in a position where we pretty much can figure out how do we want to play this game in the future. Because the race is just beginning. Right. The race is just beginning, and it's an infinite race. There is no end point. There is no goalpost. It'll continue to evolve. So one, there's complete disruption going on, which will impact every sector, every government, every citizen in how we live. In fact, there's nothing that it will not touch. So how do we leverage that? Two, the focus globally, if you look at geopolitics, the focus is now changing from regulation to control. So, and I think the AI Action Summit gave out a very, very clear signal, right? It's no more about regulation. It's all about who will control supply chains, tech supply chains. So you're going to see a lot of different play in export controls. US is already doing it, the US AI Diffusion Act, etc., which is most probably going to become a rule in less than a month. Which is going to control who gets GPUs or not. It's already happening, right? And how much of the supply chain do you control is what's going to decide your ability, your leadership position in geopolitics. And how will that supply chain control come about? And that's the third story, which is the China story. Because China is now completely rewriting the rules of the game in terms of who controls the supply chain and how. They have decided they are not going to play catch up. They have decided they are going to completely disrupt. Look at semiconductor, where US has pretty much gone after China with respect to every single export control you can think of. You will not get access to ASML, you will not get access to NVIDIA, latest chips, blah, 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 blah. What is China doing? Last month, Peking University came out with a completely new material developed on a 2D material, completely new material for semiconductor manufacturing, not using silicon. It's based on bismuth. And it basically 40%, if it's true, the claims are true, it's 40% faster than the fastest mainstream chip today and 10% more energy efficient. They've come out with a completely new ultraviolet mechanism which says that we don't need ASML anymore.
Right.
So they are disrupting, and to do this has to be the India story.
Yeah.
We have to leverage the disruptions in tech. We have to go after the supply chain control. And the only way we can improve our position in the supply chain control is to focus on disruption and not catch up. And none of this is going to be possible with our current R&D mindset. And I'm saying mindset. I'm not even saying investment. Because even with the current R&D mindset, if you pump in billions of dollars, we will still not show outcome.
No, so this is what I want to get into, this R&D mindset that you speak of. And Sindhu, let me bring you into the conversation as well. Because, one of the big positives of the India story over the last decade has been the global capability centers, the GCCs, everybody's talking about them, whether it's Microsoft or any company at this point in time. The largest base outside of their home bases are sitting here in India, and it's actually IP that is being done here in India, so it is being developed in India. So there's not an intellectual capital perspective. Then what is the issue? If we seem to have the R&D mindset to do GCCs, why don't we have the R&D mindset to do India-driven IP?
Yeah, I think I love what Debjani said, right, in terms of focus. But I think the thought process, Shireen, is how do we bring this mindset right into education systems? Because yes, we are all able to do it. I mean, just take SAP as an example. 25% of the patents that come out of SAP globally come out of India, right? Now, so which means the people are able to do it, generate IP. And to your point, Debjani, on how China comes in and comes up with this very unique ways in developing technology, I think there's also a time for us to reflect upon our education system. How are we training the young minds to go out there, become the problem solvers of the future? Design thinking, problem solving, not looking at how do we apply technology to a problem, right? Yeah. And it's not just about who's the best Python programmer or who can be a full stack developer. All that is important. Technology is important. But how do you step back, look at problems? How do you design for scale? And this is the mindset that we are trying to change, and we have to change if we get to solve if we want to drive that kind of IP creation at scale, not just for the world, but for solving the problems in India. And this is also why that strong collaboration between the industry, between the government, between the education needs to be fostered much, much more. We need to go to the schools, look at how are we applying technology for real world problems and make them understand what it is when we talk about business problems. And I'm absolutely confident if we bring that right into the education system, there's going to be all of those points, what you said, we can thrive with that. There's no doubt about that. But that needs to be a very strong, focused effort across all parties.
Absolutely. With all hands on deck and all stakeholders on board, it cannot be done in silos. But, the comment that I get very often is, why is it that only the men are asked to future cast for India? Well, no, ladies and gentlemen, the men are not going to be asked to future cast. The leaders here on this panel are going to be asked to future cast for India. Sangita, you gave us one big engine of growth, which is, of course, healthcare services. Heal in India is a mission that's been launched by the government. And I know something very interesting that you're doing at Apollo, to Debjani's point of trying to converge medicine and our medicine capabilities with AI. You've got the Apollo engine that you've set up, AI engine that you've set up, and you're driving forward. A, run us through that, but B, also talk to us about what you believe the next 5 to 10 years could potentially look like for India.
So first, I think so much of what Apollo does is driven by this passion or this vision to bring affordable, accessible healthcare within the reach of everyone. And there is a constraint of human resources, so there is a constraint of knowledge, and knowledge is growing faster than we can even keep track of. So we tried to converge artificial intelligence, the knowledge that our doctors have had, the huge database of patients we've treated, and build two very important engines. The first one is Ask Apollo, so that a public who is inundated with things from Instagram, eat cinnamon, do this, do that, this works, Ackermansia, all kinds of stuff. Who is your credible voice to enable? And the reason to empower people is because 70% of deaths in the modern world are happening because of non-communicable disease, which are caused by lifestyle, which are within the power of the human being to control. So if you have the right knowledge, if you're doing the right things, you can reduce the burden of disease. Therefore, please get credible knowledge, do lifestyle modification, do appropriate behavior practices, whether it's blood pressure or, cholesterol or 100 things that I won't go into. But the fact is, we want to empower people, and AI can help. The second one is a clinical intelligence engine, which goes to help doctors choose the right antibiotics so that we're not misusing antibiotics, get into the right cancer protocol so that we're not missing the opportunity of immunotherapy. So these are the two things that we've built. But coming back to this future and where are we, seeing where this can go. So number one, three things, and I've said this before, but it still remains powerful and relevant. Biology. Because we've understood biology, you know who has the propensity to a disease. We cannot screen 1.4 million people, but an AI-enabled health risk score will take out vulnerable populations, screen those, and avert a crisis before it happens. So using knowledge of biology, using bytes and computation, our imaging mechanisms are getting better and better. You can go into a 5-minute, 7-minute, 20-minute MRI and figure out whether you have cancer, whether you have cardiac problem. So imaging because of the power of computation and bytes. And the third is bandwidth. The healthcare I speak about is not just for urban areas. It's not for people who have moved to Goa because they want to, but it's for every small rural community.
Yes.
And that comes to them because of bandwidth and connectivity. And the combination of these three is reshaping healthcare. So this is the convergence that Debjani was talking about, but this is going to happen in every single area.
Yeah.
But I do need to flip back 1 minute because as much as we can do over there is a need for a care economy. And the care economy is an empowered, most likely women who are respected, trained, connected through their mobile phone to the knowledge, and therefore get paid for their role in the care economy.
Absolutely.
That could be transformational to the core agenda we began with of women's contribution to the economy. So if we think through this ability to use technology, take real world problems, not just build for bubbles of the city, but really for the ocean of humanity that India is. We will emerge. And just my last one, because I don't want to miss this opportunity, that during G20, we created a product which was labeled as India's gift to women of the world, which is tech equity. Build equity through technology access. This is free. This is in 120 languages. It's built for 5 different personas. Please spread tech equity to every woman you know, because they deserve that skill and knowledge.
They absolutely do, and kudos to you and the team that was driving G20 Empower. But Debjani, future casting with Debjani Ghosh.
I'm ready for this one.
Are you never, you're ready for everything, Debjani. I've never seen you not ready.
No, this is what I do in my sleep now, future casting India. So 3 things. 3 things that we absolutely have to get right. First, we have to figure out our R&D play so that we can lead in this AI plus era of convergence. And within that, I think there are 3 specific areas which is absolutely a must do if we want to get higher supply chain control. First, AI plus bio. This is going to change life sciences as we know it. This is about going down to the protein structure, which is the foundational building block of life, and then figuring out how you can play with that, right? We have to get that right, from finding cures to diseases to finding new materials. Related, the second area under convergence we have to get right is advanced materials. The material science is changing so drastically with AI. We can find, if we want to catch up, you can't catch up, but if we want to disrupt the semicon play, this is one of the biggest opportunities. What China did, we can also do, because there's just so much more room in that game. And the third area is quantum, where we are going to have so much impact from a security perspective, national security perspective. We cannot be at the receiving end of that. We have to be the innovators. So these are the 3 focus areas under convergence. The second area, renewable energy. Energy is going to be the only thing that will limit the efficiency of export controls. Because today's technology is so energy hungry, so you can put all the export controls you want, but if you don't have the energy, you will not be able to contain it. So if we can build and I think we are in a strong position there, if we can build energy, renewable energy connected to the grid, and be a leader there and make it the most cost affordable solution in the world. And that's one thing we should take away from China. We really should go after that.
In fact, we have our next panelist is going to talk exactly about that. He's going to talk exactly about that.
That's a big one. And the third one is a little different. But I do believe that the current tech model is majorly messed up. What we've done is, within the tech framework, we've put AI or technology at the center of the framework. So it's all about increasing its power, going after AGI. Somebody's screaming. I hope he agrees with me. But, it's going after AGI, and everything that happens, it's a side effect. If it kills human, okay, let's figure out the regulation so it can't, We have to now change the model, and we have to take technology from the center and put the humans back in the center. So that whatever you do with technology, you do it only if it's good for humans. And I strongly believe this is the one place where there's no country better placed than India to drive this new narrative and new model. So those are my three things.
And those are very powerful three things. And how many times have we been in rooms where the men are still trying to talk over us, and nothing is very different here. But Sindhu, I'll give you the final say. Future casting with Sindhu Gangadharan.
Well, I think to add to everything what Debjani said, I would say, first of all of us in this room have a role to play, right, in taking everything what Debjani said forward. So, and that goes back to our first point, what we said, make sure that we build an inclusive environment. Because for us to thrive, we have to make sure everybody in the system can move forward, right? I mean, if you want to solve the problems of tomorrow with technology, just make sure that each one of you in your individual roles has, when you're sitting here, it's already a big thing, right? And give the opportunity for people who can move forward. The second thing I'll go back to is definitely strengthening education, because I think if you're looking at the future of India and the future of the world, it all boils down to how we raise and bring up our young talent. And I think that is front and center for me, and I think it has to be for all of us, to make sure that we bring in the bright minds, educate them in the right way, in a very inclusive way, so that we don't have to sit in panels like this to talk about inclusion and why it is important and why diverse minds are needed to build some of the phenomenal products that serve very diverse consumers out there. And last but not least, I'd say the power of technology, right? I mean, let's not forget it. There are so many challenges that we are, even going back to the question that you started off with, how do we ensure that women are at the table? Today, we can use technology to really illuminate, build the transparency. You have AI to crunch through completely complex data sets to come up with those data points. So use technology to your advantage. Don't sit there and say, I don't know what's going on, but use technology. There's tons of technology out there, but use it in the right way to address, be aware, and drive change.
Well, ladies, yes, go ahead, Sangita.
So I'm just going to add, one thing to this, that all these are critical. There's technology, there's research, there's environment, there's this thing. The one thing that India continues to hold is this superpower of being good. There's somewhere this thing, we were never an aggressor, we are an acceptable denominator across. In a way, I think we're the Switzerland of the modern world. So we need to hold on to that, because we enhance our value system. I'm really trying to talk over this guy, because the voice of the power of value is sometimes getting lost.
Yes.
And it's not just in a highly materialistic world. People are committing suicide over the stock market, but they're not committing suicide over the loss of value system. And even if they do, people are not putting it in their headlines. So I think the importance to protect a value system in the world is as important as everything else we're talking about.
I couldn't have asked for a more appropriate closing here. Ladies and gentlemen, as is very, very evident, the future is ours to take. And as Sindhu Sangita, Reddy and Debjani pointed out, if you want a seat at the table, then perhaps we just have to build a longer table. Ladies, many, many thanks for joining us here on the program. Thank you very, very much for joining us here at the Rising Bharat Summit. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. Thank you very much indeed.
वाकई में नारी शक्ति का ये सबसे पावरफुल सेशन था। एक बार फिर से जोरदार तालियां इस बेहतरीन सेशन के लिए। वैसे कहते हैं कि नारी शक्ति सिर्फ एक विचार नहीं है, एक क्रांति है, और इस मंच पर आज यही क्रांति हमने देखी है। मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, आगे बढ़ते हैं और अब हम फोकस करते हैं एक ऐसे मुद्दे पर जो हमसे और आपसे जुड़ा हुआ है। जैसे जैसे दुनिया क्लीन और ग्रीन एनर्जी की तरफ पिवट कर रही है, वैसे ही कुछ कंपनियां हैं जो इस ट्रांजिशन के फोर फ्रंट पर खड़ी हैं। उनमें से एक है विक्रम सोलर। जी हां, उनका सफर और इनोवेटिव अप्रोच रीन्यूएबल एनर्जी की फील्ड में सिर्फ सोलर पैनल्स बनाने तक सीमित नहीं है। यह है ग्लोबल एनर्जी फ्यूचर को शेप करने का मिशन। और इस सेशन के जरिए हम जानेंगे कि कैसे, जी हां, कैसे विक्रम सोलर कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं ग्लोबल क्लीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन में, क्लाइमेट चेंज के खिलाफ मिशन का हिस्सा बनकर और एक सस्टेनेबल लो कार्बन फ्यूचर क्रिएट करने में मदद करने, नॉट जस्ट फॉर अस बट फॉर जनरेशंस टू कम। तो चलिए एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत कीजिए, वेलकम करते हैं मिस्टर ज्ञानेश चौधरी, चेयरमैन एंड एमडी विक्रम सोलर। May I also invite Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor on stage to take the conversation forward. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I know this is the last one before lunch and everybody wants to sort of rush in, grab a bite, but I promise to make it engaging. I promise to make it about something that you will take away and talk about over your lunch with your new people and connection that you hope to make here at Rising Bharat. So lovely to have you here. I think when we talk about solar energy in India, the